Okay, so this factorising 2. So I've deliberately put this here for us to do at the end. Okay, so stop crying, you'll be fine. Okay, now we will be able to do that, I promise you, but we need to go there in small steps. So just to revise what we did before, so let's say we have 6x squared plus 9x. Okay, so I'll keep it simple, I'll just keep them all positive, but you must bear in mind the positive and negative rules. Okay, now we have x's on both sides and we have numbers on both sides. Now I've written up here this rule, largest number, smallest power. So when you're factorising, this is the rule that we tend to use. Okay, I'm sorry, I know it's another rule that you've got to remember, but it is necessary. Okay, so we want the largest number that will divide into 6 and 9. Okay, now the largest number that will go into 6 and 9 is 3. Now the smallest power applies to the unknowns, to the x's. Now we've got x squared and we've got x. Now x is, or you should know, is just x to the power of 1. So this is my lowest power, my smallest power of x. So I pull that out. Okay. Now I open the bracket, and it's what multiplied by 3x will give me 6x squared. So again, I do it step by step. So 3 times 2, I know, will give me the 6. Now x, I've got to get x squared, so I need to multiply x by x to get x squared. Now the x is already here, okay, because if I multiplied, say, 3x by 2, I would automatically get 6x. The x would happen anyway. So it's just a question of what times 3 gives me 9. So 3 times 3 gives me 9. So as you can see, 3x times 3 gives me 9x. So if I've got the same power here, I can ignore it. Okay, I don't have to put that letter in the brackets. So let's rack it up a little bit. Let's say we've got 8x to squared, say, plus 12x to the power of 7. So we don't panic about this, we just know what it is. So remember, largest number, smallest power. So I know 2 will go into 8 and 12, but that's not the biggest number, okay, because we've not factorised it thoroughly. So 4 I know will go into 8 and 12. So 4 will come out. Now my lowest power of x is x squared, because obviously x to the power of 7 is a much bigger number. So x squared comes out. Now I open my brackets. Now x squared is already there. So do you remember when I said back here, if I multiplied, say, 4x squared by 2, I'd get 8x squared. Anyway, the x squared would happen. So I don't need to put any x's in there, just 2. So 4x squared times 2 will give me 8x squared. So that's dealt with that. So plus. Now 4 times 3 will give me 12. Now I do need to put an x in here because 3 times 4x squared will give me 12x squared, but we want x to the power of 7. Now you should know that, for example, x to the power of 4 multiplied by x to the power of 3 will give me x to the power of 7, because when we multiply we add the indices. Okay, so if I know this rule here, then if I'm multiplying x squared by x to the power of something, I need x to the power of 7. So what do I need to add to 2 to get 7? Well, that would be 5, because x to the power of 2 multiplied by x to the power of 5. Remember, we add the indices, so I will get x 2 plus 5 is 7. So now I can close the bracket. Okay, so all we're doing is 7 take away 2 will give me the power that I need. So let's do another one. So let's say we've got 9x to the power of 6 plus 12x to the power of 4, and they say factorise. So the smallest number, the largest number that will go into 9 and 12 is 3. My lowest power, or x to the 6 and x to the 4, so x to the 4 will be my lowest power. So now I open the brackets. So I deal with this part first. So what times 3 gives me 9? Well, that will give me 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Now I've got x to the 4, but I want x to the 6. So I'm going to have to multiply it by x. And 6 take away 4 will give me 2. So x to the 4 times x to the 2, 4 plus 2 will give me 6. Okay, plus, and then I'll start again with this. Now 3 times 4 will give me 12, and x to the 4 is already there, because this is why we take the smallest power, because this will happen anyway. So 4 times 3 x to the 4 will give me 12 x to the 4. So x to the 4 will happen anyway. So I can close the bracket. I'm hoping that you're starting to see, the pattern that's occurring. So let's say we've got 10x to the 5 plus 15x to the 3, or x cubed. Largest number that goes into there is 5, smallest power x cubed. So now I open the bracket. So what times 5 gives me 10? Well, that's 2. I've got x to the 3, but I need x to the 5. So 5 subtract 3 gives me 2. So I get 2x squared. Okay, because x to the 3 times x to the 2, add the indices, gives us 5. So that's that bit dealt with. So now we do this bit. Now 5 into 15 goes 3, and x cubed is already there. So I don't need to worry about it because 3 times 5x cubed will give me 15x cubed. So that's done. Now, as promised, we'll go over to this one. Okay, so we've got x's which we know how to deal with over here, and we've got some additional y's. We just do it in exactly the same way. Okay, so we first look at the numbers, then we look at the x's, then we look at the y's. Okay, so the largest number that goes into 15 and 20 is 5. Now we go to the x's and we want the lowest power. So we've got x to the 4 and x squared. So x squared is the lowest power. And then we go to the y's. Now y to the 3 and y to the 7. So y to the 3 is our lowest power. Okay. So now we open our bracket. And again we go step by step, so I'm only interested in this piece here. So 5 into 15 I know goes 3. So that gives me my 15. I've got x to the 2, but I want x to the 4. So I would have to have x squared, because x squared times x squared will give me x to the 4. Now y to the 3 or y cubed is already up there. So as we've seen before, if I multiply this by this, this will happen. Okay, this will happen. So anything that's here, that's up here, I can ignore. So I've now dealt with this. So now I put in my plus and I deal with this part. Now 5 into 20 goes 4. Now x squared, remember what I said, x squared is already up there, so that's going to happen anyway, so I can ignore it. We've now got y to the 3, but we want y to the 7, so 7 take away 3 means I must need y to the 4, because 3 plus 4 will give me the 7, and then I close it. Okay, I can hear the size, but we'll carry on. So let's give you another one just so you get the feel. So let's say we've got 8x to the power of 3, y to the power of 8 plus 12, x to the power of 5, and y to the power of 4. So they say factorise. So remember, largest number, smallest power. So the largest number goes into 8 and 12 would be 4. Now the smallest power for x, well, we've got x to the 3 and x to the 5, so this must be x to the 3, and then the y's, y to the 8 and y to the 4, so it must be y to the 4. Okay, so we've got what we need outside the brackets, so we now open the brackets. 4 times 2 I know gives me 8. Now x to the power of 3 is already there, so I can ignore it because it will happen anyway. And then we have y to the 4, but we want y to the 8. So I must need 8 minus 4 gives me 4. So y to the 4 times y to the 4, we add the indices which will give us y to the 8. So I've dealt with that part, now I deal with this part. So 4's into 12, I know goes 3. Now I've got x to the 3, but I want x to the 5. So this would be x to the power of 5 take away 3 will give me 2. Okay, because 3 plus 2 gives me the 5th power. And y to the 4 is there already. So if I multiply this by this, this will happen anyway. So I've now finished, and we've done what looks to be quite horrible. But if we take it in that step-by-step way, using this rule, then you can see that what looks complicated is really quite easy. Okay, but it's practice. As always with maths, it's practice. Okay, so now I go on to factorising part 3.